All right, class, we're going to start with V-Carve Pro. So once you're logged into your laptops, you're going to find this icon here, V-Carve Pro. The number may change depending on the version that we have currently. Double click on it with the left side of the trackpad. It's important that you use the left side of the trackpad. We're going to, on this left column here, use the Create New File. It's the very top thing on Startup Tasks. Once you open that, we're going to see a job setup screen. That's going to give us options that we can select from. We're going to go with a single-sided job for the purpose of this demonstration. We can make our width whatever size we want. Let's just go with 10 in width. You can see the white box there changed as I made the change. If you hit the Tab key, it'll go down to the next one. You can type in 10 again. And then for the sake of this exercise, we'll make our piece 3/4 of an inch thick, or 0.75. For Z0 position, that's where the router is going up and down. We're going to work on the material surface. The X and Y datum position, we want to select the center so that the dot here and this brown box shows up in the middle, and the red dot or square shows up in the middle of our white. And we can hit OK or press Enter on the keyboard. Now we have a lot of different options to choose from. One of the options, if you realize later that you didn't make the correct settings, is that you can go to File Operations, right here where my cursor is hovered over the Set Job Dimensions and Origin. You can see when I click on that, that goes back to Job Setup and allows us to make any changes we need to make. Now, we have lots of different options under Create Vectors. We could make circles, ellipses or ovals, rectangular shapes or squares, polygon, that's just a many-sided object, a star, or we can do individual straight lines, drawing arcs, drawing curves. We can use a texture thing if we want. There's lots of different options here. We are going to focus on the trace bitmap. So in order to get there, we're going to go to Google and pick a bitmap that we want to trace. So here we're going to open a new tab at Google, and we're going to type in a title of something that we want to trace. Now remember, when we're using this for just finding the profile of something, we want to make sure that we have the words clip art or silhouette or black and white. We can even combine those words and do black and white clip art. Now, with this being, we're looking to trace this for our lamp base for this exercise. We don't need a lot of detail. As a matter of fact, the less detail, the better. This, not so good. These are cute, whatever. This here, where it has these smudgy effects around the outside, are going to be not a good choice. And when we're doing this, we're also looking for what gives us a good, crisp, clean line. So I'm looking for, in this instance, something uniform. And we'll talk about how we can make changes to it a little bit later. Let's see. How about this teddy bear here? So I did not mean to open that. That's fine. So you'll note here that our pixel size, 600 and 40 by 811. That will work out really well. So put your cursor somewhere over this image. Right click by using 2 fingers to tap on your trackpad. You don't need to depress the trackpad, just gently tap on it. Then find copy image. When you find that and click on it, then you'll get a pop-up here that says image copy. Now we can go back to our V-Carve software. And if we hit Control V on our keyboard, we'll get the image. Now, notice we have a pink outline around it right now. If I accidentally click off to the side, that disappears. And if I open the tracing software, Trace Bitmap, it'll say there's no bitmap selected. So we need to actually have that pink outline around it. We have a lot of options. If we had a colored drawing, we could choose from colors, and we can go as a maximum of 16, and we can go all the way down to just black and white with sliding this cursor. We're going to go with black and white. It's simpler. That suits our purpose nicely. We have the number of colors, as you saw with color, and then this is also for black and white, a threshold thing. If we want to make our image darker because the lines were fainter or something like that, we could drag this over. And if you drag it too far, you'll see it just turns your whole image black. And these are background pixels that we can't see with our naked eye that the software picks up. We don't really need to make an adjustment with this with this black and white drawing. So I always, because there's so many bars to pull around on here, I just put my cursor here and click. That scrolls us down really well. One thing I do with almost every tracing is I grab the noise filter and slide it way over here to eliminate anything that is 10 pixels or smaller. That will help if there's any background picture noise that we can't see. It'll help get rid of that. Then the group vectors right here, this we want to make sure is not selected. When you open your tracing option, this is often selected by default. I do not think that that's appropriate. We need to not select it. So make sure that's unchecked. Then we're going to hit preview, and now you can see lines drawn around the parts. Then we can hit apply if we're happy with those lines. If we weren't happy with it, we could go back up here to the threshold and make changes, and or the corner fit or noise filter. Once we are happy with it, we hit apply and then close, and that brings us back to the drawing tab. Now, we don't really need the image behind it. We could delete it, or we can click on Layers tab, and by deselecting the light bulb, it turns the image off. And then we'll go back to our drawing tab because this is where we really want to be. Now, we don't need any of the lines that create the graphic for this design. We are only looking for the exterior parts. So what we're going to do is use our keyboard and press Control A, and that is a select all. Now we're going to put the very tip of our cursor right here on the line, hold the Shift key down, and press that, or click on that rather. And that's going to give us the opportunity to deselect that outer line. There's another way to do this. If you don't want to use Control A, you can click with your mouse up in the left corner, and then everything that's surrounded by this rectangle will be selected. So if I moved my cursor to here, only the parts that are surrounded by the rectangle get selected, like so, or like so. And then I could, using the delete button on the keyboard, delete that. I can also go to it, right click, and press delete here. So I can go this way, and anything that's completely surrounded by the rectangle will be selected. Either which way works. Now, I'm looking at the outline of this, and right here on the arm of the teddy bear, I see a spot that looks a little weird when it's zoomed out. Maybe it's not. By the way, if you're zooming in and out and you get lost somewhere along the way, like moving like that, and like, oh, where to go? You can hit the F on your keyboard, and that fits the job right back into screen. Now, in this teddy bear, I think that's a pretty decent shape, but the way this is, I feel like it could be a little longer, taller. So if I wanted to make a change to my teddy bear, then I'm going to use node editing mode. So what that is you select your line, and you can do one of two things to get into node editing mode. You can do press the N on your keyboard, or over here where it says edit objects. The second one in is node edit mode. And when I select that, I get a bunch of different nodes. Now the nodes are the little blue dots, or in a straight section, they're little black dots. If you hover over one of them, you'll get a crosshair like you would with a rifle scope or something like that, and you can hit the D, the letter D on your keyboard to delete nodes if you feel like it. Excuse me. You can also insert a node if you want. You can find anywhere along your pathway and press I for insert and bring a node up. If you want to delete a segment of line, you can hover over it and press the D on the keyboard and hover over it. Again, if you hit the F on your keyboard, that will make it fit to the screen. What you see me doing here is I'm trying to find what I think is about the middle of my picture, and I'm inserting nodes. You don't have to do this. I feel like it's necessary for this one. Now I'm going to get rid of the node edit mode, or escape the node edit mode. I'm going to select that version or that side of the line and get rid of it. I want to do that for a reason, which I'll explain in a moment here. We're going to go back to node edit mode, zoom in over here, and then I'm going to delete this segment right there. And I want to make this section changed just a little bit. I tip that over, bring it in line, and make my teddy bear a little bit longer. And then try to just visualize the parts lined up. Now I'm going to select both lines. Notice that when I started on the bottom on the right side, and then I click and drag a rectangle up to the left, anything that I'm touching with that rectangle selects. I'm going to connect those. Over here I've got connection options under edit options. We have join close vectors by moving the endpoints close to each other. Join with a smooth curve, or this is more what I'm looking for this one, join with a straight line. So if I click on that, I get a straight line between the two. Then I can manipulate anything else that I need to within this. I think I want to change the shape of the leg just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is select some vectors over here, bring that over a little, and then I might use the insert thing to insert one here and delete this one off the end. My goal is to have this lower part end right on the center line here. I'm going to use the F key to fit it back to the screen and look at the top end. That looks pretty decent. I'm just going to slide that back. That should be okay. I'm going to escape to get out of node edit mode, F for fit to screen. Now, when I select my line, I'm going to then create a mirror image of that. When I create a mirror image, I'll be able to join those two together. You're not obligated to do this. It's just things that are optional for you. So I have that. I'm going to look over here for transform objects. I'm not going to rotate it or distort it or align it. I'm going to mirror it. So I'm going to select that. And being that's on the right side, I'm going to create a copy horizontally or flip it about the line that's in the middle of the board. I could also go flip it to the left. Either one works. Now I have my teddy bear and click out there and look at it. It's just a little bit longer in here. I like that look. And I think I need to make that different than what it is. Maybe go back to what it had been originally. So I'm going to go Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. See the changes happening on the screen. And now I think I went one too far. I'm going to Control Y and rejoin that. Okay, now I'll go back here to the mirroring function again. Flip it horizontally. Notice that when I'm flipping it horizontally, that I have flip about job center. That would be this line here. Or if I was flipping it vertically, this line here. And then I also have create a mirrored copy. Now, this line that's not highlighted, you could draw a line with a line drawing tool anywhere on the software, or excuse me, anywhere on the screen, and flip about that line or flip it over that line too. All right, let's close that, click out here and see what it looks like. You know, I actually like that better down here. It looks, before I think it looked a little bit like a butt. Now I don't. All right, so I'm going to click on move ends close together. And because I had two joints to close, one up here and one down here, I have to click that twice. Then I'm going to click out there and say to myself, do I like the way that looks? Pretty much. I think maybe I want this section of the leg to stick out further. So let's go Control Z, Control Z. There we go. Back to this starting spot here. And then I'm going to zoom in on just this section here by putting my cursor near it and using pinch to zoom there. I can grab a node and pull it out a little. Ooh, but I don't really like the way that looks. Might be easier to draw a circle and put it over there. So put a circle here, find, whoops, Control Z, find the center and just click and draw what I think I need by clicking and dragging. I can find a size that looks appropriate. I'm just pushing this around with the arrow keys on the keyboard. If I wanted to make it a little bit bigger, I can do that. Notice how when I grab the handle and pull upwards, it's only stretching in one direction. If I hold the shift key down and grab the handle, when I click on it, now it moves in both directions. So let's see what that looks like. Try to imagine this not being there. Maybe a little big. Oops. Let's go back here. Zoom in on the selected area by pressing this button up top. And I'm going to make that a little smaller. I'll hold the shift key down and make it a little, whoops, whoa, that's really small. Make it just a little bit smaller. Not much, just a little. Then have multiple options. I could use a scissor tool and cut part of it away, like so. If I do that, I want to make sure that this rejoin trimmed sections is selected. That way, when I close this out with this button here, those sections will join up. Now if I hit Node Edit Mode and go back into this, I can see I've got an odd shaped node here, like it's smooth and then it's not smooth. I could get rid of that just by hitting the D on the keyboard and deleting it. Or I can make an adjustment to it. I can also hit the S on the keyboard to smooth it out. That's more like it. I like the look of that. Now, these parts here are handles. So we can manipulate those a little bit and make changes to it. Let's go ahead and get rid of that and try just making some changes with the handles, just to make it a little bit smoother of a transition. And you can play with these node edit modes to make as many changes as you think you need. I like the look of that. The foot goes out a little further, makes things a little bit easier. Now I can go back to mirror and flip about the job center. I'll hit close, and I'm going to Control A to select everything. And I'm just going to use this join vectors by moving the endpoints to a common point. And I'm going to do that hoping that it does the top section first. If you zoom in up here, you can see they're overlapping. I could trim them with scissors, or pressing this should make them jump together. There we go. Now, let's zoom back out. On this, I kind of like how far apart this is. I don't want it to pull in that segment. So I'm going to press join with a curve or a smooth curve. And then I'm going to zoom in on that section and see what that looks like. Not bad. Let's see what it looks like under node edit mode. Yeah, that's pretty decent. So if I hover over these, I could hit S to make it a smooth curve. And then if I felt like I wanted to change it a little bit, I could move these around. I feel like I do want to change it. It's not necessary. It's just something that my eye sees. There was a little bit of a point here I wanted to get rid of. Now it's more of a smooth arc, and I like the look of that better. All right. So now, for the purpose of tracing the bitmap and then making adjustments to it, that's pretty decent. One thing I want to consider is we're going to be using the round over bit at the router table in order to make the edges smooth. Now this here segment, along with the other side, is rather sharp. Let's see how big that is. I can use this tool to measure a distance. So I want to see just how long is that. Only 0.1769 in length. That's not very long, 1/8 of an inch. So the round over bit on the router table happens to be 1/2 of an inch, or 0.5. So if I click, if I go to the draw circle thing and then click on my screen after setting this to 0.5 diameter, now I have a radius of 1/4 inch, and from here to here is a 1/2 inch. The point by doing that is I can drag this in and see where does that fit in here and still get close to touching the sides. So what I'm going to do, just use my arrow keys. I'm going to get rid of anything beyond this so that the neck or head transfers right into the arm. So there's actually kind of a lot of ways we could do this. We could do it with this and then use the trim feature like so. And then that'll just drop right into there. Doesn't look too bad. Or we could use node edit mode. Now, before I do any actual trimming on that, I'm going to duplicate this and put it over here. And I can use that mirror mode flip horizontally. And like I said before, it's going to flip it directly over this center line here. So when I hit flip horizontally, it should put it in almost exactly the same spot. Let's zoom in really close and take a look. Nice. Okay. It's a reasonably smooth transition. I want it overlapping like that. I don't want it too far out. So now I'm going to, instead of hitting that, I'm going to hit F on the keyboard to zoom in on, or zoom out on everything. Grab my interactive trim tool. Remember to have rejoin vectors selected. I'm going to hit that, and then the tops of the circles. When I hit escape, it should join everything back together. Oh, it didn't. Maybe there's too many pieces going at once. That's okay. We can make that work. We do need these connected, so we're going to go ahead and use our move endpoints to the closest section. Oops, that was a mistake. Notice that it jumped across the board there. I need it to connect to itself. So I've got to select that, click it twice, and then if you don't know or think there might be a chance that you didn't have everything selected or joined together, you can look at this join open vectors, and it'll tell you if you have a closed vector or an open vector. To make a profile cut, which is what we're going to do next, you need to be able to have everything connected together. All right, so we've established that that is good to go. We have a space here that's going to be big enough for a router bit to fit around. Looking at these sections right up by the ear and here, I want to make sure those are smooth enough for the router bit to cut everything. So next, let's look at the fillet or fillet tool. When we select that, we're going to use a radius. Remember, radius is from the center out of a circle. So for this purpose, we want a 1/2 inch bearing to fit in our area. So we're going to use a 1/4 inch radius. When I bring it over the cursor onto the screen, I can put it near a sharp corner and a check mark will occur. When that happens, I can simply click on the mouse at that corner, if it's not already that round, and it will make it that round. All right. And then I'll hit close here. Let's see what we've got. That looks pretty good, reasonably smooth. Okay, now let's talk about making a profile cutout of this. We have our line established and we're happy enough with it. We're going to go ahead and switch over to the other side by using this blue arrow inside of a box near the question mark and near the stick pin. We're going to press that arrow and that will transfer everything over to the other side. Over here we have our tool paths. On the tool paths we have little brown boxes, and each of these gives us different options. So we're going for a profile tool path, and we have to have our line selected. We want to set our cut depth. That's how deep we're going to go into or through the material at the thickness of our material. We don't want to put any numbers up here where it says start depth. Next box down is the tool. We want to select the tool and then want to make sure that our 1/4 inch end mill has all the right settings. The CNC we have at the school works really well with a pass depth of 3/16 or 0.1875. And then we're going to scroll on down to spindle speed. We're going to have that set at 20,000 RPMs. And then our feed rate, we want to be approximately 90 RPMs with a plunge rate of 100. If you have all those settings done, then you're going to hit apply. and select that tool. That should be producing about 4 passes here. Now we're going to go to the next box, machining vectors. So as you can see here, this is a representation of the cutter and the direction it's moving. We're going to go on the outside. We can also make it cut the other direction. That would be fine too. Climb cutting is usually a little bit smoother, so we'll have that selected. We could also choose inside, but our design is to cut outside. So we're going to go ahead and cut on the outside. Now, every time we make a pass or a depth, so we have 4 passes here, that's going to leave what we call a witness mark. So these blue lines represent the different levels of the bit as it goes down and into the wood. When we cut wood, it often leaves a little bit of wood likes to expand and contract while we cut it, relieving tensions, and it leaves what we call a witness mark. So by clicking Do Separate Last Pass, that's going to take 1 pass at the whole depth and eliminate those. So the first few passes will be outside of our line by whatever we program over here, this allowance. We're going to put a 2 on the right side of the zeros and make that 20 thousandths or 200ths of an inch of an allowance. For this program, we won't need to add tabs, but we will add a ramp. We're going to make sure smooth is selected. And then our distance of the ramp, instead of the angle, we're going to go with a 0.5. And here we're going to tell it what we want it to be called. So I might call this teddy bear. And then I can hit calculate and it'll calculate it. And like I said a moment ago, each of the blue lines represents a pass into the wood. So we've got our step passes here for the first 3, and then this big long green line represents going straight down to the bottom. Let's see here. There we go. And you can see that one's going to cut inside of these first 3. So our bit is starting in the middle, going over here, and then it's going to start going down into the wood at a ramped angle. You can probably see, there we go, by this line here, that's how it's going down. And then that last one, it's going to go down to the very bottom with that. Now, if you want to see what it looks like, you can hit Preview Visible Tool Paths. Remember, this was a 10 by 10 inch block that we started with. When we hit Preview Visible, you can also move this slider if you feel like you want to see what the tool looks like going through the work. You can have the computer simulate it. So with a 10 by 10 cutting on the outside of the line, this is what we have left over. If we want to get rid of this, we'll just double tap on the mouse, and that gives us what we need. There you can see our 1/2 inch radius near the shoulder that we designed earlier. Now let's take a peek at something. I wanted to make a change, I think. So we're going to click on 2D view to go back to our drawing. When this is highlighted, notice I have numbers moving around at the bottom, and then I have numbers that are stationary on the right. I think I don't like this size. I want it to be just a little bit bigger. I want to make it 9 inches tall instead of 8 1/4. So to do that, I'll go back to my drawing tab, go under transform objects because I'm going to transform its size. And then you see I've got height and width here, and the link XY is selected. So if I highlight all of that, I can press the 9 on my keyboard, and notice this changed at the same rate that this changed, and it gives you the percentage here. That could be useful for other things. So now we hit apply, and our bear drawing changes size. Might be a good idea to center this on my workpiece. So I'm going to go to this alignment tool, and I'm going to press this top centering one. Now it's going to move everything left and right until it's centered, and up and down until it's centered. I can escape or close this. And then to reprogram the cut, I just double click on the words themselves. Everything's already set up. We don't need to make any changes. We just need to hit calculate again. And then if you look at this straight on, you'll see it changed everything. Let's see what that looks like. Reset preview. Preview visible toolpaths. Double click to get rid of everything. Let's unpin that and unpin this. That looks pretty good. All right, I'm satisfied with the way that looks. So I'll bring this back out, click on the pin. Now we need to know how to save it to our CNC machine. We need to close the preview tab. That can be found here, by the way, if you needed to see it again. You can select this to see how long the cut's going to take, or you can also go and hover over the words and it'll tell you. On this one, just under 3 minutes, 3/4 of an inch depth. To save it, we're going to use the save icon. We're going to make sure that the title that we had selected is there. And then we're going to make sure that we have this CNC post processor brought up. There are thousands and thousands of CNCs. In order to find ours quickly, you're going to hit the L on the keyboard to go to the L section. And then you're going to scroll until you see the word legacy, 3-axis, CV, arcs. That first one is the one we want. We'll select that. And then with the USB device in our computer, we'll hit Save Toolpaths. That'll bring a pop-up window up. And if you have your USB device in here, you could save your teddy bear text file to the USB device. You can see I don't currently have one in here. That's okay. All right. I think I covered everything you need to know. So I'm going to end this recording now.